This is Battlefield 4. We're here on PlayStation 5 Pro. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is a game from the earlier days of the PlayStation 4, and it is one of the games that will benefit from the sharpening of the PS5 Pro. So be sure to like that video. Subscribing is great as well. We're starting with the campaign, and then we will be moving on to the multiplayer portion of the experience, so that you can see both of them in action, and get an idea of the visuals that are present here for, well, Battlefield 4, and what it has to offer gameplay-wise, on the pro side of things, which is kind of interesting. It's also funny, because I'm coming from Xbox, where I typically play this, and the resolution quality, not a massive bump up, but a very noticeable bump up from what we have there, which is funny. But also a very noticeable downgrade in terms of frame rate, because that one is FPS boosted, whereas that is not the case here for the Battlefield 4 experience. So in the campaign, you work with a number of different, well, individuals and units as you battle along. You've got your core squad that you get to know, and you go on this journey to, I don't know, kind of protect certain interests. There's a certain point where you make a bit of a big choice, which is a little wild, and you get your typical action, you know, big set pieces, crazy explosions, driving some vehicles occasionally. This one did have a focus on China, and that area of being a bit of the, I guess you would say, the conflict setup here, which is interesting, considering, you know, nowadays I don't think you could really do that sort of a thing if you wanted to have a good relationship with, you know, that company in term, or that country and their companies in terms of actually products and everything like that. So it is interesting to take a look at the game at this point in time and, you know, kind of reflect a little bit at it. And mostly it's the multiplayer people care about. Obviously, in the long term, eventually the only thing you'll really be able to enjoy is the single player campaign. But, you know, for now, as we have multiplayer servers and everything like that, it is fun to, you know, kind of enjoy that aspect of the experience. While still, campaign being decent, it's an alright shooter. It's got some interesting stuff, a unique setting and conflict scenario that they've created here. And one I don't, again, think too many companies would do nowadays, just because, you know, relationships with China and stuff like that would be negatively impacted by its existence, which is kind of funny to think about.
You okay, Irish?
Yeah, I always forget that it's so easy to jump up and get in here. Anyways, so yeah, we've got our squad. If you've played 2042, coming back to this one, obviously you'll maybe know what Irish has to say. But yeah, you're like a tactical team, and you set in and do certain missions, and yeah, it's the usual kind of thing. It's hard to really dive into because it's not a very, I don't know how you describe it. It's not necessarily like a mind-blowing story. Like, it's a decent campaign, especially for like a Battlefield game, but yeah, a lot of the levels and stuff, a little forgettable for this one. But this is still one of the most popular Battlefields. It's very, very well loved and fondly remembered. And it did have some great sense of destruction. Wow, I went in there with like literally no bullets. A great sense of destruction to some of those big, bombastic campaign moments, which are really, really neat to see. But I remember this being a very, very good showcase at the start of the PlayStation 4 era. Especially coming from having this literally. So what happened with these games is they released like on the PS3, and then literally, like, I think a month or a couple weeks later, we had the current gen consoles, or well, the next gen consoles at the time, which are last gen consoles now. And yeah, kind of funny to think about, because it was like a big upgrade was getting this improvement, these like new games that ran better and stuff. And now these games are obviously quite old, but yeah, it was just kind of mind-blowing to have that quick bump up between PS3 to PS4 for this game. It was just like frame rate, resolution, it was just massively enhanced between the two. Let's switch over to the multiplayer.
Scan the area.
This is the multiplayer portion of the experience, which is the main draw for many, I would imagine, in playing and engaging with, well, Battlefield 4 here. And there's still a wide range of different full servers. It was exciting because the multiplayer on consoles got bumped up to 64 players for large-scale mayhem and conflict for the platform back in the day. And that in itself was rather exciting to see. This is kind of the big showcase map, being the Siege of Shanghai. And I guess I didn't really mention this fully, but the game itself is 900p. It's 60 FPS. And with the PlayStation 5 Pro, we actually get a sharpening, because it is a lesser than 1080 kind of threshold. We do actually get a improvement in regards to the edge sharpening of the experience, so your UI looks actually nice and clean and sharp, and it probably helps a little bit with the environment too. It's still quite jaggedy around the edges. It's still a resolution that you can kind of notice is definitely not super sharp. But yeah, that's kind of the big trade-off you kind of get here. If you play this on PlayStation, you get a slightly better resolution, but a lower frame rate. If you play this on Xbox, you get a way higher frame rate, but a slightly lower resolution. And that in itself is rather interesting, because it's cool to see this game with actual, like, a little bit more fidelity to it. I know that might sound weird, but having done various streams and experiences with Battlefield 4 over the years on the Xbox side of things, a little bit of clarity is appreciated, for sure, yeah. Anyways, the multiplayer here, lots of fun, pretty action-packed. They have a great selection of maps, playlist options, setups that people are enjoying. The sense of scale for conflict was fantastic. You really feel like you're in these big city areas battling one another. Very, very well done. And it did feel like an evolution of, well, basically Battlefield 3's multiplayer, which was pretty big for the franchise at the time. This one sort of elevated that a bit further. Tons of vehicle options, tons of ways to kind of battle and experience the conflict as you attempted to take on your foes, and you're, you know, playing the different factions. And yeah, Battlefield 4 was really, really good. I mean, it still is. Like, we're still enjoying it fine here, obviously, but you know, obviously there's been quite a few Battlefields that have been released since. So it is more of a revisit, as to say, of something. Wait, I have health packs instead of first, like, the defibrillators, the defibs. Oh, I have nothing for this class setup. But yeah, it does help a little bit with making this look clean. You know, like, obviously, the technology here, you know, it's not going to magically make this have a higher resolution, because that's not what it does. But it does make things look a lot sharper. It makes things look cleaner. I think that's about as good as you can really expect at this current point in time. I think it's a precursor for them eventually doing a better resolution bump up someday, but you get what you get for now. And it does look better, which is kind of important, I would say. Yeah, the sense of scale on this one, it's another one of those ones where I do wish that DICE did remasters or something occasionally. I know they're always focused on that next Battlefield, but it would be very nice to have this one all cleaned up and looking better. It's a cool effect. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's a very, very cool effect. I'm just getting absolutely annihilated out here. So they got that area set up, with people parachuting in there. I'm just like getting picked off as like cannon fodder for these guys, which I don't love, but that is part of the game. And then yeah, Levolution was the big thing. So you could still like kind of break stuff in the environment, but it was almost toned down a little bit compared to the destruction we had in the Bad Company games. But you can still, like, there's always these levels, they would have like a big Levolution point. For the one storm map, you could trigger an event where the carrier would crash onto the island, One of them you could blow up a dam. This one you can knock down the skyscraper. They're kind of like silly singular points, like from a modern perspective, but they were kind of cool because it was like, oh, let's trigger a big destruction. The one map you can flood, not the dam level, but there's another map where you could literally like kind of flood it, and one of them, the main hotel area, can get just like demolished, and that kind of stuff was actually really, really cool at the time. I think it's still kind of cool, but mostly trying to give a in-context situation to these things, these moments that were really exciting. Was like actually seeing these massive large-scale explosion events and destruction events. That was fantastic at the time. Killed by Ace Maniac. I'm alive! I wanted that tank. Oh well, I'll get busy a-walking. I can do the infantry thing. But the fun and the sense of scale for Battlefield is that, like, you could be an infantry player. You could also be someone that flies around in planes. And, like, you know, the jets. And there's helicopters. And you could be someone that drives a tank or a jeep or some other vehicles. Do some alone, do some with others. And work in this, like, large-scale environment of destruction and chaos. And this one had a lot of expansion DLC too. There was quite a few different maps that were added to this one over its lifespan. Some different. They always do that, the thematic expansion packs. I think that era of paying for map packs is kind of gone from video games, but wow, that was just annihilation from that M16. Holy. Oh, it dropped like a rock there. So I do think that era is kind of gone from gaming, but this was still part of that where you did, you know, buy in, and I think if you had premium, you had access to better, like, benefits for loading in and stuff and things, and yeah, it's definitely an interesting evolution to see how that kind of stuff has changed over the years. Remember those bad guys were? There was like a couple over there. I never get there, like, fast enough to kill people. And then I always die from someone that's like, really bad luck. I need to remember to add a defibrillator on, though, because I usually do the reviving in this game. It's a big part of it. And then you had the real fun was, like, doing Operation Locker. It was like the Hurt Locker. And you were fighting in, like, this really, really tight space, and it'd just be like dying constantly because you wouldn't be able to move much, and do some legendary flanks moving around, that kind of stuff. But yeah, a lot of the multiplayer, especially at this point in time, you're kind of prey to people that are like level 100 something. They'll just like fly around in planes and jets and are like way too good at it. Even tanks, it's like if your team is pretty competent, you'll have guys that just instantly like rocket destroy tanks or have mines, and yeah, this is really interesting actually to see how this has evolved, and it's even more fascinating that it just has like a healthy selection of people still playing it. It genuinely surprises me when I come on here and it's like, wow, there's a ton of people still playing this game. Because like obviously I quite like this. I've played a lot of it. But just like the long-term love, genuinely shocking. But I guess when you don't really have too many Battlefield games that's what I'm saying, you just get rocketed from these guys. You don't have too many Battlefield games that like overlap or overtake this one, or like, you know, succeeded as to say. Obviously Battlefield 1 was very successful, but from this perspective, you don't have that kind of a big change-up. It's like you're not gonna really have people move on from the game, right? They'll kind of get stuck on it and just stay with it. Even outside of like revisits, they'll just kind of keep this one in rotation and be like, well, that's Battlefield for me. And that's not good for, like, you know, franchise future health, right? Which I always find funny that this one seems to be the big sticking point for some. Specifically this one. Okay. I need to, customize this. Oh, I gotta unlock the defib? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I gotta unlock that thing that lets me save people? That just seems counter team play intuitive, if that makes sense. Hmm. But yeah, definitely had some good memories playing this one. I think it holds up pretty well considering how old it is. A resolution improvement would go far for this game, but at the same time, this is a pretty good way to enjoy this. Is there a bunch of guys on like the second level over there? Is he on like the second level? Oh, he's on the roof. Just can't stop these guys. They're all over the ceilings, they're on top of the buildings, they're everywhere. I'm just cannon fodder out here until I unlock stuff. It's kind of a bit of a hard reset getting back into this, if that makes sense, without like gear and that. But still, a fun time, a neat experience, genuinely creative and cool, you know, different approach for warfare and setting and all that. And obviously, we couldn't really get this going today because, unlike Russia, China doesn't like when you know, present them as like the bad guys and stuff. And, yeah, that I do find interesting. I don't usually have like a machine gun on this thing too. Might not have that unlocked. See? Big vehicles, big destruction, fun. That's what it's all about. No other spawns on the other side? I thought we had like a little spawn beacon there. Yeah, I hope a future Battlefield game kinda hits on the vibes of this one again and just kinda delivers this sort of fun and action. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. Because I do love this franchise. I think a lot of people do. It's kind of funny too thinking of this back in its heyday when it was like a competing franchise. Competing Battlefield franchise, like shooter franchise, was one of the big juggernauts. Nowadays it's like definitely not at the same level. Well, we'll see if they can get back into the big races and things. It's always fun to have like a little bit of an excuse to dive back into this one and kind of like, you know, showcase it, talk about it, dive into it, play some of the multiplayer. I do like the improved clarity on PlayStation. It does look nicer. I should really play this on PC someday though and just like see how good it can actually look. Because obviously that's, you know, far beyond kind of what we got here. Some boat action too. I was forgetting about like the aquatic stuff. I think there's like a jet ski or something you could take or sea doo. It's kind of fun. And there was the swimming stuff. Yeah, this really was the versatile kind of like all around, at the time, Modern Warfare experience, if you think about it. This must be like hardcore. Oh! Oh, you had like a commander too. Yeah, it was just really large-scale multiplayer and gameplay. It was so funny because you buy this on the PlayStation 3, right? And then like literally like right after, it might have been literally less than a month after, bam, we had this next-gen version of the game, and then you could do like a $10 upgrade. And then you do that, and you're like, whoa, this change-up is amazing. And, you know, it really felt like a big improvement. It was kind of a big seller for the next-gen at that point, was actually seeing that much of a massive bump up, like a generational change. You don't really get that a lot these days, but this one certainly had that next-gen gleam, as to say. Certainly a visual charm to it. So hopefully this bumped a little bit of nostalgia for you. I mean, you can still go and play at any point. But yeah, it is nice to have an excuse to come back in here and just enjoy some more of this. I'll have to do some more streams as well of this in the future. We do them every so often, but less and less as the years go on because, you know, less and less interest and intrigue. But Battlefield 4 is still a great game.